What's that?
The coffee.
Yeah, today it is, but you can see I'm a mess without my coffee. It's just like falling apart.
Did you break something?
No, I've been spilling on myself all day.
You're hot.
What's that?
It's hot, just so you know.
Oh, that's fine. Okay.
Okay, great. Hi.
I'm spilling repeatedly.
Oh, well, I got between toothpaste and hairspray, totally. Is that coffee?
No, it's tea. This is the problem. I've been trying to decaffeinate myself for a couple of days. I'm a mess. Well, no, I'm just not used. I'm not used to like the spray. It just isn't working.
Have you tried hot chocolate? It would be messier. Yes, I know there is the problem with that. So.
Sure. So there's no written motion because of taking action on the facts. I just thought I'd say. I will point out that yours truly got the date wrong, and so it's actually February 9th, not February 10th.
Great. Okay. All right. Perfect. Okay. And Stephanie. Right. Okay.
And I actually will take her place briefly just to do a quick verbal one.
You guys ready? I think I'm live, so. Robert, you ready? Okay, great. All right. Richard, you ready? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the February 9th, 2016 regular meeting of the State Land Board. The secretary is out of the state, and she is excused from today's meeting. Appreciate your attendance, Mr. Taylor. Director Cummins, take it away.
Thank you very much, Governor and Secretary Wheeler. Is this on?
Mine is very on, so.
Okay. Let's see. Try this one. That one is. Okay. This morning we will start, for the record, I'm Stephanie Halleck Cummins, the Interim Director of the Department of State Lands. To begin with this morning, we have 5 items on the consent agenda. There are the minutes from the last meeting. There are 4 requests for easements. 2 are for roads and 2 are for over water. So item 1A are the minutes. I'll turn to 1B. I'll just go through them all if that's okay
That'd be
with
great.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And 1B is in Tillamook County. This is a request for an approval of an easement over Highway 101 from ODOT over the Hogwarton Slough. They need to widen the highway, and obviously they've been running it for some time, but there has not been an easement. They have completed an easement application for the bridge crossing. They have paid the fee. There will be a pedestrian survey to make sure there will not be any disturbance of archaeological resources. But other than that, it's fairly straightforward.
And there were no comments submitted in opposition.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
Nope.
Okay, we will move to the next one, which is 1C. This is in Wallowa County. This is a permanent easement for a road there that apparently the county hired a new roadmaster and discovered this particular road did not have an easement. We also had an application circulated to all the adjacent property owners. There were no expressions of concern about this easement. It's pretty straightforward. There is a payment required on all of these, and none of them go ahead until the payment is received.
Thank you. Any questions on this particular one?
No, thank you.
All right. 1D. This is a request from the Bonneville Power Administration. This is for a road in Klamath County. It's approximately 4 miles long. There has been an easement granted to an adjacent property owner. Department of Forestry has also used this road for access for maintenance work that they do for Department of State Lands, but Bonneville has not had a permanent easement, and they have requested one for this property. The only thing I would note on this one is, compared to the others, it's a relatively high fee. Those fees are basically based from the county on the value, appraised value of the land is typically how we determine those dollar amounts.
And Director Cummins, no significant opposition comments received on this particular easement?
That's
either?
correct, Governor.
Okay. And no questions, so let's move on to the next one.
Okay, the last one is a request to grant a permanent easement for a sewer line that's actually attached to a bridge that crosses the Snake River from Nyssa in Malheur County. It's an interesting one in that the city of Nyssa gets their water from wells, drinking water wells in Idaho, and the water is treated at a water treatment plant in Idaho, and the sewer line is actually for the backwash from that treatment that will come back to Nyssa and run through their wastewater treatment plant before discharge. And there were no comments or concerns expressed about this easement.
Okay. Questions?
Governor, I move approval of the consent agenda.
The treasurer moves approval of the consent agenda. Hearing and seeing no objection, so ordered.
Thank you. The next item I will introduce and then invite my fellow director, Doug Decker, up to State Forester, to the table. You get two opportunities to hear from the Department of Forestry. This is their informational presentation on performance in 2015. You will hear from them again in June when they will present their budget to you for review. And so today Doug is going to talk to you about what happened in 2015, and I would invite him to come to the table and do that.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Governor Brown.
Good morning. Thank you.
Yes, Treasurer Wheeler. My name is Doug Decker. I serve as Oregon State Forester, the Director of the Department of Forestry. I'm joined this morning by the Chief of our State Forest Division, Liz Dent. We're here with you this morning to briefly present our annual report for Common School Forests for 2015 as required by the 2005 Management Agreement. For context, you know that the Department of Forestry, Department of State Lands contracts with ODF to manage about 117,000 acres of forest land, about 82,000 acres of which are in the Elliott State Forest. And the balance of the 30,000 acres of Common School-owned forest land across western and eastern Oregon. This is it's a relatively small but important part of the overall 750,000 acres of Common School trust lands in your portfolio, and it's distinct and different from the 700,000 plus Board of Forestry owned acres of forest land that reside primarily in northwest Oregon. ODF and DSL have a very long and positive tradition of working together. We've really appreciated the focus and the energy that Interim Director Cummins and Director Abrams and Assistant Director Paul and the whole team here have provided through this transition process. In a moment, Liz is going to walk through the numbers and the trends that describe our management activities, but I did want to specifically recognize the transitional nature of our current management of particularly the Elliott State Forest, and highlight that really that it's in this context, this kind of time of transition. We know that the protocol that you've adopted clearly charts a changing future for these lands, but within that context, there actually has been a steadying and some improvement on the metrics in 2015, particularly related to volume harvested and value returned, as well as to a decrease in management costs. Also of note, this is the first fiscal year since Marble Merlet litigation in 2012 that we've actually had a positive net operating income on Common School forest lands, and this is due in part to conscious changes that we've made on the Elliott as part of the overall transition process that you're underway with, including a reduction in staff and our operating expenses there, shifting our sales program to focus on younger stands that provide a revenue bridge during this ownership transition, as well as an uptick in activity on Common School forest lands outside the Elliott. So Liz is prepared to take us through the numbers, and then we'd be glad to take any questions that you have.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Is that on?
I think
All right, I'm staying close to the mic. Is that good? Okay. For the record, my name is Liz Dent, and I'm the Division Chief for State Forests at Oregon Department of Forestry. As Doug said, I'm going to walk us through the numbers, but I'm not going to dive into a lot of detail because you have everything in front of you, so I'm going to really be more speaking at the trend level. But I do want to start with affirming the points that Doug was making and acknowledging that we're certainly working in a tumultuous times for both Department of State Lands and Department of Forestry, really finding our way through major shifts in our threatened and endangered species populations and then the associated policies for managing for those species. Again, the strong working relationship between our two agencies has been important, and I'd suggest it's more important than ever right now. And just would like to pass on the deep appreciation at both the field and Salem staff level for the frequent and open communications from Jim Paul, Mary Abrams, and Stephanie Hallett Cummins. Very appreciated and helpful in working through these times. So again, it'll be important to maintain the ability of our two agencies to continue working together during the critical policy and management decisions as we forge ahead on especially around decisions for the Elliott State Forest. So it's with this framework that our foresters on the ground continue to supervise, administer timber operations, and monitor the environmental successes and sustain critical habitat for fish and wildlife. So again, the numbers are in front of you. Excuse me, and I'll just provide some overarching highlights and be happy to answer questions in more detail as requested. So as Doug mentioned, in comparison to 2014, there's an overall positive trend. And so on page 2 of your insert here, so there's the sort of glossy cover leaflet, and inside that are is the more detailed information. So the overarching information on page 2 really hits the, I think, important highlights. Demonstrate an increase in volume, increase in revenue transferred to the Common School Fund, an increase in the net operating income, a decrease in management costs, increase in sold sales, and the associated volume and revenue with those sales. So really overarching, a good story to tell there. Do want to acknowledge that if we go back in history, we're still not at the level where we have been for managing these lands. So it's important to keep that context as well. So the result being, when we look at all this information, that for 2015, there was a positive revenue stream to the Common School Fund. Really important, obviously, indicator for your decision making now and into the future. So I would say there's two big drivers to this, and those being the improved timber value, obviously a result of the improved market, and then a decrease in expenditures. So the timber value, as compared to 2014, has increased by 48%. So significant, and I think most of Oregonians saw that as a positive outcome for our timber-dependent communities especially. And then in terms of decreases in expenditure, Doug mentioned the layoffs. That was fairly significant, 9 employees. I'm sorry, did you say 9 employees?
That's
okay. Correct. And then the action that we've taken since then to balance our budget and reestablish the positive revenue stream to the Common School Fund. So one way that's happening is really associated with an overall reduction in harvest as compared to previous years where we're doing a significantly more harvest and generating more volume. And so under those conditions, there's increase in hauling, increased need for access to roads, which means more road maintenance and more administering of that type of activity as well. And I guess I'd make an overall point that particularly on the Elliott State Forest, there's been a concerted effort to do more with less. And that is important and helpful at this stage, and we're able to do that, but clearly it's not a sustainable model over the long term. So looking at the other parcels, Doug mentioned the roughly 30,000 acres of other DSL lands that the Department of Forestry manages. Really over the past few years, the volume and revenue off of those lands has been highly variable. There is a conscientious effort on the part of our foresters to look for opportunities to plan timber sales in those parcels, but it can be very challenging depending on the age of the stands, as well as what kind of threatened dangers, encumbrances that we may have on those forests, and some adjacency regulations as well under the Forest Practices Act. So looking forward then for fiscal year 2016, just a few comments and things to keep in mind, certainly recognizing we're in a transitional period and that extremely fluid nature of planning. And so for the Elliott State Forest at this point, we have no planned sales for 2016, and the work that is at hand right now will conclude and terminate by March 1st of 2017. Recognizing, however, that there are some uncertainties under the DSL direction, our foresters are still working to frame up potential sales that'll sort of will be in reserve. So if there comes a point where we need to kick up the sale program again, we'd be really ready to go on fairly short notice. So there are several other components to managing a land base like this for public good, and they include young stand management. We continue to invest in that to grow healthy, productive forests for future generations, stream restoration work, identifying locations and habitat needs for endangered species, and then road improvement work, really critical, particularly for protecting water quality. So a couple last points I'll make, and one is that I indicated a little bit earlier that while there are positive trends shown in our report here for 2015, it is expected, as I said, that this type of work is really not sustainable over the long term, and as such, you're in the situation you are in terms of moving forward with the Elliott State Forest work that you're involved in. We look forward to continuing to work closely with Department of State Lands, and a critical piece will be putting together our biennial budget that we'll bring to you in June. And so with that, I'll conclude my comments and be happy to take questions.
Thank you. I just want to clarify on the 9 FTE. Was that from the department as a whole, and were those folks located in the Elliott particular region, or were they statewide?
Those positions were located in the Coos office for managing the Elliott State Forest.
Okay. All right. Treasurer, any questions?
A couple questions. Liz, can you go back to the net operating income for 2015? You showed as $909,000. Where does the fire protection assessment fit in?
The fire protection assessment, I'll need to go to my notes here, was for a total of $324,000, and that is handled before the net operating income is calculated, or before the transfer. It is a transfer from the funds, the revenue that's generated off the Elliott State Forest.
So is the 324 Is the 909 already net of the 324, or do we have to net out the additional 324?
It's already netted.
It's already netted out. Thank you. And then same question for the Coos District, Elliott District down below, the 2.3. Is it already netted out?
That's correct.
Okay. And then the third and final question, Governor, up under sold sales, total project cost from sales sold will be about $450. Can you explain that? What does that mean?
You bet. So project cost typically refers to the costs associated with road construction and road maintenance. There are some additional factors that we consider for what we call site prep or site preparation to get the area ready for reforestation.
And so I assume that's also netted out. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So this is a way to show us what the cost of the sale is effectively.
That's exactly right.
Very good.
Just
And
so
you
can see
track
the
that
expenditures.
from year to year?
That's right.
Good. Thank you. Good. That's it, Governor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate the report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have signed up to speak. Bill Cluding, did you want to speak this morning? I do, yes. Do you have a particular agenda item you wish to speak about? Come on up. Pretend it's an ice cream cone.
Thank you, Madam Governor, Treasurer, Secretary of State. For the record, Bill Cluding, Carpenters Industrial Works. I urge the land board to, we need a timber harvest. I represent mill workers and forestry workers. With the loss of the Elliott so far, again, it's really putting the bind in our employers that are used to a harvest level off the Elliott and other state lands. Again, I urge the land board to concentrate, put an effort out, and this put rural Oregon back to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Thank you. No, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Director Cummins.
So, Governor and Treasurer Wheeler, you have one more agenda item, which is the selection of a new director, and I believe Richard Whitman's going to handle that. I just want to say thank you very much for having me, and I've enjoyed working with all of you and with everybody here at the Department of State Lands, and I will be lingering about to help on the Elliott State Forest for the rest of the year, but it's been a real pleasure, and I've enjoyed it very much.
Well, thank you. We've really appreciated your very skilled leadership hand at the helm of this agency, and we look forward to working with you on a couple of other projects in the future. So thank you so much for stepping in. We really appreciate your time and energy. So.
Thank you.
All right. For the record, this is Richard Whitman, Governor Brown's Land Board Assistant, and I'm going to present on the staff report on this agenda item, which is the appointment of a new permanent director for the Department of State Lands. I want to start out by just reminding you all that Director Abrams left the agency in October of last year, and at that time you appointed Ms. Cummins as the interim director. And just note that Ms. Cummins has also had just really good support from her executive team, which includes Cindy Wickham, Bill Ryan, and Jim Paul. as well as other key people in the agency. So I think just appreciation for the agency going through a time with an interim director headed into a legislative session. I think they've done a great job in holding things together. So in terms of the process for identifying a candidate for a permanent director for the agency, the Land Board has worked closely with the Department of Administrative Services. Enrique Sama is here from the Department of Administrative Services, has really been the point person on the recruitment. It was a national recruitment. There were 41 applicants for the position, which I'll note is a fairly substantial increase from the number of applicants you had last time the Land Board went through appointing a permanent director. So the basic process that followed from that was that the Department of Administrative Services screened the applicants to determine which of the applicants met minimum qualifications. And there were 8 candidates in particular who sort of rose to the top of the list as warranting further review. Those candidates were interviewed by the Land Board assistants, and that resulted in a narrowing of the field to 4 applicants for the position. And the Land Board members have each had an opportunity to interview each of the 4 finalists. We are at a point today where the Land Board assistants have a recommendation for you all in terms of the appointment of a permanent director. And that recommendation is that you appoint Jim Paul as the new permanent director of the Department of State Lands. You all know, but for the audience, Jim Paul is currently an assistant director in the Department of State Lands and previously held management positions in the Oregon Department of Forestry. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the Land Board might have.
Questions?
No questions.
Mr. Taylor, would you like to read a letter?
I would. Thank you, Governor. The Secretary of State asked me to read this letter today. Dear Stephanie and Jim, I'm sorry I cannot be at the Land Board meeting in person, but I wanted to sincerely thank you both for answering the call to serve the Oregon Department of State Lands. Stephanie, thank you for stepping in to be a steady, thoughtful, and committed leader during this time of transition at the department. The state of Oregon owes you a debt of gratitude for your service. Jim, I want to express my full support for you as the new director of the Department of State Lands. You are the right person for the job, and I am very pleased with the board's decision to entrust the stewardship of the department in your capable hands. We are very fortunate to have you. Thank you both again for your service to Oregon. All Oregonians are better off because of people like you. Gina, thank you.
That's really nice. Thank you. Treasurer Wheeler.
Governor, I move that we accept the unanimous recommendation of the Land Board assistants that the Land Board appoint Jim Paul as the new director of the Oregon Department of State Lands effective February 9th, 2016 for a 4-year term.
I'm not sure I'm going to remember all that, but essentially the treasurer moves to adopt the unanimous recommendation of the Land Board assistants to appoint Jim Paul, the new director of the Department of State Lands, as of February 9th, 2016. Hearing and seeing no objections, it is so ordered. Congratulations. Welcome.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Treasurer, and I send my thanks to the Secretary. Somewhat speechless. I can be a man of many words, but I think I'll keep it to a few today. I just want to say first, thank you so much for your trust and confidence in me. It's a little bit overwhelming and quite humbling. To the department, we've been through a lot of change recently. I'm looking forward to leading us, continuing to lead us through that change and continuing to see us get better. And to the Common School Fund and the public in general, I'll strive to continue to maintain and grow your trust and confidence in DSL as a department. And finally, I'll just say I can't wait to start the job. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and congratulations. Any further business to come before the board? Okay. All right. You're good? Tell the secretary we wish her best and appreciate her very thoughtful letter. So, with that, we are adjourned.
Fantastic. So I'll see you at 1, Governor.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Good. Pick your brain a little bit. Yes.